Welcome, geeks, to another exciting episode of Rockin The Code World with dotNetDave. I almost forgot the name of the show. It's been so long since we've done a show in the last few weeks. I'm glad you're all back. I hope you had enjoyed some of the time off that we were taking because of the holidays and all that kind of stuff. My birthday was a couple of weeks ago. And so welcome everybody back. Welcome, Paul. Welcome, Ganesh. I'm glad you're all here. Make sure you get your questions ready because my very special guest today is Jeff Fritz from Microsoft. You probably all heard about him. He's got popular show all the time on the internet. He just came back from speaking in Las Vegas. So it's great to have somebody back on the show. So I'm looking forward to talking to Jeff in just a few minutes. I do kind of want to, I want to start out, I woke up this morning and found out that, we had a devastating storm in America in the state of Kentucky last night. And they're guessing that there's going to be probably 100 or more people who have died because of that tornado storm that hit that state. It was like 250 miles long of devastating tornadoes all last night. So all my thoughts and prayers go out to everybody in that area, especially the families that have to deal with the aftermath of this. So send your thoughts and prayers to them. They're going to need help. And an Amazon warehouse got knocked offline. Parts of it was destroyed. So I'm sure that's going to impact some of the holiday gifts people are ordering. But just remember, it's about the people. And so my thoughts go to all of the hundreds of families who've been impacted by this devastating event. So I also want to say real quick that I owe somebody some books in India. They're right over there. They're going out next week. So don't worry. I'm really, really sorry it's taken me so long. I just haven't been to the post office. But it's happening next week because I have some other things I need to ship to my grandkids and things like that. So I have to go to the post office. I don't like going because I don't like waiting in line. So that'll happen early next week. So don't worry, it's coming. And I'll throw in some goodies in there for you because you've waited so long for the books that I gave away on my anniversary show. Okay. So again, Jeff Fritz, Principal Program Manager for the .NET community is on today. So make sure you get your questions ready, especially about Blazor. That's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about .NET 6 and Blazor with Azure static websites. And it'll be great to catch up with Jeff because I haven't talked to him in a year. Also, right now, I am picking sessions for the .NET Virtual Conference that's happening January 24th and 20 through the 26th next month. It's only 40 some days away, so get ready. I'm almost to 100 sessions, and I'm picking them right now. And I don't know if you noticed the tweet, but I have a newfound respect for people like Simon, who produces my show, that has to pick the sessions for a conference because it's pretty daunting experience. I'm trying to pick the right ones. Which ones will people be interested in? Which ones do they need to be interested in? So I'm taking my time, but the CFP closes very soon on the 20th. So if you want to speak at the conference, please submit your papers. Simon, can you put up the link? I forgot to put up the link on the slide. So please submit your papers. There's only a handful of days left to do that. And if you're going to submit your papers, make sure you do more than 2 sentences of description. That's another thing I'm finding out, that you speakers don't put enough information about your session, and it's hard for me to pick by 2 sentences. So please put a little bit more in there. It really helped me to pick the best sessions for the viewers for next month. Okay, so don't forget about that. Also, I'm wearing my .NET Run shirt. It finally came in, and I encourage you all, if you can, to go buy one. It all profits Black Girls Code. So you go to that link there. Simon will put it up in the chat, and go buy your t-shirt now. I was thinking about this morning when I was getting dressed, and I was, if anybody from that organization, I know Scott Hanselman doesn't watch this show, but he's the one that was promoting it a lot. If any of you, if you put out a hat, I would love one. I would love a .NET Run hat. That would be awesome to wear in my shows. So do a hat, a nice one, not a trucker cap. Okay, so go help that. We need to encourage the kids to get excited about technology and programming, and so this is one of the organizations in America that does that. So please help them out, especially during this holiday season. I have a new article out right now. How do you link? I asked all of you that follow me on Twitter what kind of article you want me to write, and what one was about performance. And so so in this article, I'm kind of highlighting 3 different ways I see people write link queries in .NET. And there's only one way that's the most performant. So make sure you check out the article, because maybe you've been doing this wrong, and you can go fix your code on Monday, I guess. But it's there, and I hope you check it out. Go. I thought I had a slide about this, but I'm getting ready for the next release of my open source projects and NuGet packages right now. I did final benchmark tests last night, which take a really long time to run. Just one of my benchmark test executables ran for almost 12 hours just to get one done. So Spargene is a new version of Spargene is officially being released at the beginning of the month. I have an article all lined up to be available as soon as that's released. And this week, I don't know if you've been following my performance stuff or reading my articles or my performance book, but if you read my performance book, the best way to iterate through a collection is by using for, right? Not for each. For is the most performant way of iterating through a collection. I found a faster way of for. I'm talking like almost double the performance of for. I just happened upon this past week, and it's going in Spargene. So it's going to make going through collections a lot faster as soon as the new release of Spargene is out. So I'll help you check that out. And with that, I'd like to bring on my guest. Jeff Fritz is a Twitch and YouTube partner, as well as a founder of Live Coder Stream team and principal program manager at Microsoft's developer division on the .NET community team, where he leads organization and online components of Microsoft top developer events. The Live Coders is a community of 200 broadcasters making technical content available for free on Twitch through programming, game development, fun interactions, and chat. You can catch Jeff writing .NET code all week long on his video stream called Fritz and Friends. And Simon can put up the link. Welcome, Jeff.
Hey, there we are. How you doing there, Dave? Good to see you.
Good to see you too. How you doing?
Not bad. It's good to finally be in December and see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's January 1st. It's the year end. We can unwind a little bit as we get into the December holidays, and I've got a couple weeks off scheduled for the end of the year, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, you deserve it. You spend all week long, all week. I mean, like almost 7 days. Being live and coding and speaking. You just came back from Nevada speaking at a conference.
Yep.
And so I'm glad you're here. I was all worried this morning. Jeff probably woke up this morning going, "Oh my God, I got to do another talk after talking all freaking week."
No.
I know you.
Oh gosh,
you're used to it.
Yeah, I'm very used to it, and honestly, this is what I enjoy doing.
Yeah.
So to be hanging out with you, and certainly talking to all of you out there, the folks in the chat room, answering questions and making sure that you folks are successful. That's what I live for. That's what I really enjoy doing.
Yeah, that's what I enjoy doing too. I just don't have a gig at Microsoft doing that full time. I wish I did, but I do want to thank you for sending me my C# hat.
Oh my gosh, yes.
it took a while, but I got it. So I'm one of the proud owners of the very few C# hats that are in existence.
Yep.
So I appreciate that. I wanted to give a shout out to you. I gave a shout out to Scott, who was my last guest, Scott Hunter. And because it was actually on my very first show that I bugged him that I want one. And then he contacted you going, hey, Jeff, you take care of Dave. And I finally got the hat, and I wear it like every 3 shows. Or I because I only have 3 hats, and I need more people. And but I try to wear that one like when Microsoft people come on, because
sure,
yeah. So I did want to ask you really quick about, when we talk about Vegas, I wanted to talk about something that you promoted this week really quick before we get into Blazor. And everybody, don't forget to ask Jeff, post your questions here. We'll ask Jeff while he's here. I wanted to talk about this milestone you hit this week.
Oh my God.
Clip Talk.
Yes.
Because last year at this time, you were writing Clip Talk, right?
Yeah.
So first explain to everybody kind of what Clip Talk is.
So what if you're out there, you're watching on Twitch, you of course know what Twitch clips are. On YouTube, there's things like shorts where, right, we want to isolate and deliver a highlight of a live stream. And that highlight is going to be about a minute long on Twitch. The problem on the Twitch platform is it's kind of hard to search through and find clips that are going to be interesting for you, that are going to have content that is relevant to something that you might be currently watching or something that you're interested in. And you really have to do it almost on a channel by channel basis. So an idea was presented to me that, hey, what if we could have a website that allows you to search and discover and find clips easier than on Twitch? And with my experience, my expertise in building with Blazor, I felt like this was kind of a cool way to showcase Blazor, build a website that helps Twitch streamers while I'm live on Twitch, and take advantage of a bunch of Azure technologies. So I set forth building Blazor WebAssembly on an Azure static web app, and wired up a bunch of databases and search capabilities. And now we have ClipTalk, KLIPTOK.com. It launched about a year ago now. It was at the end of November 2020. And this week we crossed 7 million clips indexed on the platform.
Wow. Oh, I thought someone said 10, but even
that's
7 million is,
that's where we're going next.
Okay.
Yeah. So
7 is still awesome. I mean,
it's huge.
Really great.
The what's really interesting, really compelling about this is that I only loaded information about maybe 10, 15 channels, folks that I knew that I wanted to watch. But the engagement that's happened has come from other streamers, other folks that are interested in engaging and getting this type of indexing and ability to review and find historical content, going and loading some of their friends streamers channels, and see this community start to grow. And it's getting somewhere where we're picking up speed, and I'm very excited for what we're going to be doing in 2022. So it's a web app right now, but very, very clearly mobile app is on the horizon. More artificial intelligence features on the horizon. So I'm real excited about where I can take this, because it's been a great learning experience about building with C#, building for the web, and learning some of these integration points with all kinds of different services to make browsing for, searching for videos, and how you build that social network to interact quickly, easily, and as a one-man show. So really cool stuff.
You wrote all that by yourself?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's quite daunting.
The power of building with a fully mature framework, right? And services on Azure that have all these things that we can light up quickly, and able to browse around and interact with and see yeah, how these pieces fit together. So
Well,
I
that
see
just gave me
Paul.
that just gave me an idea that maybe we should have you on next year, and maybe after you hit 10 million, and kind of just walk everybody through the architecture and how you chose to do those kind of things. I'm sure you do it on your show, but it'd be nice
I
to have
do.
a like a 1 hour summary of how you did all that, because I think, I mean, me personally, as a seasoned developer, I guess, it's one thing I don't see enough of is real world examples of here's exactly how I did this for this
Yeah.
app that you've all heard about, right? It's like I wish we could hear more from Amazon people how they build that kind of stuff, And
Hmm.
I've had the guy on that, one of the really smart, incredibly smart people on the Netflix team on my show, and I love those kind of sessions because here's the technology and here's exactly how we used it,
Yeah.
right? And I
Yeah.
think those are really, really valuable to people, especially even me, because I don't know about you, but every time I go to write something, I go into, analysis paralysis,
Hmm.
right? I go, okay, what do I use? There's so many things I could do, but which one do I do? you know, and it's, but I did want to ask you, did you use Cosmos DB for your backend database or
So
SQL?
I'm actually on my third different database
Hmm.
backing ClipTalk at this point. I started with Azure Table Storage. I went to MySQL. I then looked at Cosmos, and I ran into a couple challenges with migrating to Cosmos and how my data would work over there,
Hmm.
and the capacity, the usage pattern that I was running into with how I was going to work with Cosmos just wasn't a good fit. So I didn't move forward with Cosmos, and I actually have moved over and I'm using Ravendb
Hmm.
as my storage mechanism for this. I have 3 nodes of Raven that are running in the cloud. I've got about 50 gig of data loaded in there that you can search through and process. And Raven generates a whole bunch of indexes for me and manages all them for me as clips are discovered and loaded into the application. So ClipTalk wakes up every minute and checks to see if there's new clips from channels that it's identified and it's
Hmm.
following on Twitch.
Hmm.
So as those clips are identified, it's adding into these indexes and search engine capabilities so that you can find content later. It's
Hmm.
pretty cool stuff.
Well, I was asking because Mark Brown is going to be on the show next weekend, so um,
Great guy, good
yeah,
friend.
yeah.
And actually, Mark wants to take a look at a little bit of how we've built ClipTalk and wants to see if
Mhm.
there is a Cosmos equivalent that can be done. So I'm actually going to be talking to him over the next week or so about
Oh, cool.
exactly that.
Yeah, I like Mark, and he's going to be coming on. For those of you who want to watch next week, Mark is going to be on talking about all the new features from Cosmos DB that just dropped, and I'm really interested in that show because I really like Cosmos DB, and I want to learn all the new stuff they're working on. Um, so let's talk about .NET 6, Blazor, and Azure static websites. Where do you want to
Sure.
start?
So, I mean, let's kind of walk back as a little bit of transition here. So, ClipTalk
Hmm.
is an Azure static website.
Hmm.
So the idea is Blazor can run as WebAssembly, right? WebAssembly is that HTML5 technology that runs binary code live in the browser, and I immediately fell in love with it. I was frustrated and annoyed with chasing JavaScript frameworks, and since I'm a C# developer and I was already so used to building with component based
Hmm.
frameworks like ASP.NET Web Forms, it it fit exactly the way that I thought about web applications so well when I looked at Blazor. And the ability to say, well, I'm going to build this application like a single page application, like a spa, just like our friends that build with Angular or Vue or React
Hmm.
and deploy, and it's all .NET code front to back. My server side operations, my client side operations, updating, managing the user interface. So why not build with Blazor, deploy static HTML, static CSS files, fonts, all that, and put that out on Azure somewhere where I don't really need a server, right?
Yeah.
It's just a file share that's sitting out there effectively. But what Azure Static Websites does is it gives you the ability to partner with that file share that contains your Blazor content, Azure Functions. So now any business logic, database interactions, these things that you want to have isolated, protected, running on a server, they're running inside of an Azure Functions app right next to that share that hosts your Blazor application, HTML, and all that. So it's this really nice pattern of having my web application and my server-side functions that I can build and think about as just little units of HTTP interactions that maybe if I need more processing, I can push onto a queue or a service bus or query from a database like Cosmos or Azure SQL or whatever it might be. I use Raven, I mentioned. So having that portability to be able to push code into Azure functions that are simple and small and isolated and focus on delivering just the web content as C# and web content has been a very nice way for me to grow the application. And things that I've seen and worked on with as part of this, I get staging environments for free. Dave, have you seen, right? You've probably seen this and worked with it. When you're an app service, right? You have the staging slots, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, if I want to deploy stuff and put it in that staging slot, it's not quite the same as I do with my regular continuous integration, right? Like I have to point somewhere else and set it up properly. And well, what happens when I'm done with that staging slot? I have to clean it up and delete it or something, and it's a hassle.
Yeah.
So what I really like that the Azure Static Websites does is when I set it up, I get a GitHub action script built for me by default. It comes with the template. So it knows how to deploy immediately to that static website. But when there's a pull request against my repository, it automatically sets up that staging environment and names it after the pull request. So now I can work on a feature, put it together in a feature branch, and set up the pull request and don't actually accept the pull request. Just update that feature branch, and GitHub will automatically deploy to Azure and set up this staging environment each time there's a new update in the pull request, and I can see live in exactly the same environment that I would have in production. Here's what the fix looks like. I get that smoke testability. I can share that link with folks on stream. I can share that with colleagues, and we can go take a look and see exactly how it's going to work. And then when I merge the pull request, it, of course, merges, redeploys my main branch, and knocks down that staging environment. I don't have to touch Azure for any of that.
Right.
I'll go weeks without touching the Azure portal or the command line or any of that stuff because it just manages it for me right from GitHub Actions.
Yeah.
Huge. I really enjoyed using that structure to build applications.
Yeah, I've heard about that, but I haven't like talked to somebody one-on-one about that actually did it, right? And it's and you could go back the other way too, right? If you put something up and there's a bug in it, you can immediately roll back to the previous version, right?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Right. If I submit a rollback in GitHub, right? If I roll back to a previous build and commit that and send it into my main branch, it'll patch and update that Azure website immediately.
Yeah.
Really, really good stuff.
Yeah.
And
that to me is really powerful, especially, because, I'm working on a project that doesn't do anything normal by any stretch. And because it was written well over 10 years ago. And, the entire time I've been working on this project for this company, I've been going, oh my gosh, why can't we be doing this? Why can't we be doing that? Is because they haven't kept up with anything in the last 10 years. And so now they're kind of in this
catch up.
Not even that. They're just kind of frozen. They can't do anything. I mean, we can't even move to GitHub, because everything is so messed up, with, I don't want to get into it, but, it's, those kind of features like you were just talking about that makes, DevOps, but even our lives so much easier because, it's just kind of automatic. You can roll back if something happens that's really bad, and you can stage it. You can play around with it exactly like you were saying before it actually goes live, and then you can push it live. And yeah, it's pretty powerful stuff. And I wish more companies would use systems like that, work together like that, especially. And that's one thing I've always liked about Azure, and of course the Microsoft, technology, is that everything just works well together, right? They might not all work perfectly because that's just the way it is, but it works a lot better than trying to hodgepodge all these different systems, and this one is free and this one's not, and this one doesn't really talk to this other one, so we got to do all this work to make it talk to each other. But in Azure land, everything just kind of talks to each other pretty well.
So I mean, I like what you're saying there. You're absolutely right. There's such an effort to make sure that Visual Studio and .NET and Azure all work so well together. And in November, I made a commitment to folks on my Twitch channel. I was going to spend the month of November learning JavaScript. I'm not a Node developer. I mean, crumbs, right? I'm a C# guy, and so learning Node for me was something new. All right, let's go in and let's try this out. And Dave, you're spot on with the having to hodgepodge things together. NPM installing things in the Node ecosystem feels like walking through a landmine field. Like there's some things that work very well with others, and as you bring these things in and you go install, it's going to tell you immediately, well, here's some security warnings that we may have found on some of these packages you're using. And the first time I installed and was running and trying to build a Node web server, I got 8 high security warnings. Like, what am I supposed to do about that? I just said, give me the web server, and I've got 8 security warnings. Like, okay, update it. Still have 8 warnings. Is that something I want to bet my company on?
Yeah.
Like, it's just me. Am I really going to deploy something that I know has problems? That's a management nightmare that I don't want. And having that assurance that my technologies are going to work together, that I have a team of folks that are going to provide support and update those packages for me and patch them and ensure that they support the latest technologies, the HTML5, all the things going on the web that are new and interesting. Well, now we're talking. That's where I want to go. And that's where, folks who are using Angular, right? You're going to rely on Google is managing this. If I live within Angular, Google is managing that stuff in those Angular packages. So we can be assured it's going to be updated because Google is using that. Same thing with React, right? React is going to be patched and updated because we know Facebook is using that to build Facebook.
Right.
So there's value in staying within those ecosystems. And how far outside of them can we go? Are we willing to take that step and figure out, do we get into this hodgepodge, this Franken app of things that come from other places that we don't know?
Yeah. And that's what I've been dealing with, this Frankenstein apps, the last couple jobs I've been working on. And even the last one, they were using Node against my wishes for the front end. And I just remember the first time I deleted like that folder that website was in and watched all the thousands of files that were being deleted that Node put in there. I'm going, how can this be fast when there's thousands of files to run this thing? It's crazy.
It's the interpolation of all that content, right? It's interpreted code, interpretation. It's interpreted code that, you're relying on that Chrome V8 engine, JavaScript engine to parse and load and get all that stuff cached in memory. Now, okay, you know what? That's pretty good for a single threaded application that is going to deliver that. I'm always a fan of calling out the Tech Empower benchmarks, that impartial organization out there that's measuring and showing. Just like you showed in your blog post there, Dave, they're showing just how fast some of these frameworks are, so that we can make educated decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to lie, it helps encourage some of the folks building some of those frameworks to improve their frameworks.
Mm-hmm.
But to see just how fast Node is, or just how fast ASP.NET Core or Spring, or choose your favorite web framework, Ruby on Rails. Well, how fast is that?
Mm-hmm.
And you see, well, here's what this consulting firm is testing and seeing when they run through all these frameworks. And of course, if you want to build a web application with C++, yes, it's screaming fast.
Sure.
But Dave, do you really want to build a web application?
You want to take that time? How much time do you have?
Like, you're opening yourself up to, right, Stack Overflow, buffer overflows, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, and when you're building a game, when you're building low level stuff, it makes perfect sense.
Sure.
But yeah, high level web application. Let's get some of the protection that's built in with some of these other frameworks.
Yeah, and you should always pick the right framework for the job, right? I've always believed in that in my career, and whatever that framework is, of course, you and I love Microsoft, but
Sure.
whatever it is, but my big thing, it kind of goes back to what you were talking about just a minute ago, was staying within the ecosystem, because that's where I see a lot of companies get into problems, because they're trying to save money, or in the case of my last job, the CTO wakes up one day and doesn't like Microsoft anymore, and now everything's being changed to Java for no reason, and so but even before that, it was still a hodgepodge of all these things that barely even work together, right? And as a developer, it's so frustrating to spend a lot of time just dealing with this stuff, as opposed to writing code or writing business logic, right?
And gosh, man, what a segue. That takes me right into what I think about with .NET 6, and how I don't want all that ceremony and nonsense around configuring my application and code that I need to maintain that's really framework stuff. And that's why I've really latched onto, and I've really enjoyed using minimal APIs with .NET 6 and ASP.NET Core 6, because I can get right to, well, let me just map a request from this folder, from this folder structure, and I'm going to return data in this way, or I'm going to post data in this way and handle it and do whatever business processing. I don't have to worry about setting up configuration and how the web server needs to run and all these other things. I'm literally 4 lines into my program CS file in C# with .NET 6, and I'm writing map get and issuing calls to interact with things. It's been such a enjoyable way to write code to deliver a microservice in one file with .NET. Of course, you have a CS proj file, but a CS proj with a program CS, and I have a sample that I show that's 20 lines of code. Throw a Docker file next to that, and it sits out there in an Alpine hosted Linux container at 100 meg. Now I'm ready to take the Pepsi challenge against those folks that are so happy to use Node and deliver and run their applications as microservices. 10, 20 lines of code, 100 meg Docker container, and it runs the fastest framework available out there on the smallest Alpine Linux container. That's what I'm talking about when I think about portability, the speed, the efficiency of Docker and .NET. And coming back to, like you were saying, bring together the whole ecosystem. I can put that into an Azure container app, and it'll run only as needed and shut off completely when it's not being used. It's a great time to be a developer in the Microsoft ecosystem, especially if you're using .NET.
Yeah, there's a, when I do my cloud talk, I show one of my microservices that I wrote in Azure Functions, and that uses Cosmos DB.
Cool.
Just takes something off the queue and does something with it and sticks it in the Cosmos DB.
Okay.
But I show them this code that it's almost unbelievable because and this was years ago, right?
Mhm.
To me, when you can, and I'm saying this because I started out in AWS because I had to,
Okay.
and I went through all of that pain of trying to get things to work in AWS,
Okay.
and to look at like a microservice in Azure where that whole database orchestration, everything, I don't even set it up, right? It's literally an attribute, right?
Yeah.
And that whole orchestration between the queue and the database and all that stuff is taken care of, and
Mhm.
I show them the code and I go, there's really only like 5 lines of code in this if you take away the logging and all that stuff.
Sure.
And
Sure.
come on. And
Right?
all I do is publish it and it's done. I don't have to go to
Mhm.
Azure. I don't have to do anything.
Oh,
It
yeah.
just works, right?
I it and the connection string, all those things to
Mhm.
configure where it's getting and interacting with that, put all that into an Azure Key Vault. It's being
Right.
injected into the application. You don't have to think about it. It's being
Mhm.
maintained by someone else sitting over there, and you can deploy updates easily to all of that if you need to move
Mhm.
connection strings, you need to change, rotate certificates, all that stuff. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Let's make developers' jobs not about maintaining the Azure services,
Mhm.
setting up and managing the structure and the plumbing underneath the application. No, as a developer, I want to focus on the business logic of my application. I
Yeah.
don't want to deal with any of that other nonsense. The fact that I have to wire things up and send it over to a service bus and think through that architecture, okay, I get it. That's something that is going to help me scale. But
Mhm.
once I get past that initial configuration, to exactly your point, Dave, I don't want to think about it. Let me
Mhm.
put triggers and things around my functions so I can just say, okay, here's an I collector, I'm sorry, for that service bus topic. Go send it over there. Here's it's a blob container that's linked in my Azure function. Just create a new stream and stick it in there.
Yeah.
And I don't have to think about the wire up of all those things because I can focus on just my logic. It's great stuff.
Yeah. I and the AWS teams I've been on. Sorry about the light, everybody. The sun's
Sunny
decided to come
Southern
out for the
California.
first. I know. It's like going right in my window. Um, my sliding glass door windows over there. But what was I going to say? Yeah, coming from the AWS, on the AWS teams I've worked on, I basically say I'll write the code, but someone else has to take care of all that other stuff because it's just too hard to do it. It's I don't want to become an AWS expert. I'm a coder, right? I want to code and get the job done. Let the DevOps guys, take care of all that stuff, and I
Okay.
give it to them and go. You guys are the experts. You do it, and that's actually what I recommend for companies that are looking into AWS and we're thinking about AWS or Microsoft or whatever. And I go, well, let me tell you, if you go to AWS, you're going to have to hire a full-time DevOps person, right? Because it's
Okay.
the only way you can get this stuff to work consistently, right?
Mm,
To have someone
mm,
dedicated just to do that all day long.
okay.
And at one company they did, and the guy sat right next to me, and I'm so glad I didn't have to do his job, because all he did was writing scripts and tweaking scripts, and he was using VS Code for it, luckily, but
Okay.
he just was constantly just dealing with these issues and trying to wire things up in AWS where,
Hmm.
in Azure it's pretty simple. It's small
I'm
companies could get away with not a DevOps person is kind of what I'm trying to say. Look,
I
you're the whole thing, right? For Clip
right.
Talk.
Exactly. Clip Talk is
Yeah.
100% me, top to bottom. I've had a couple folks drop in to help out with user interface. I had one or two folks help out with wiring up some of the business logic that we've built on the back end, optimizing that, and it's been helpful. It's been very cool to see. At some point, I know I need to bring in more folks, but for right now, for what I'm trying to achieve, we're okay moving at this
Yeah.
pace.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can do that. And especially and I like that just because as a developer, I can play around with that stuff real easily. And I don't have to become an expert at
Hmm.
DevOps to get something working. right?
Oh my
That's
gosh,
kind of my
yes.
point, is that we can actually do it. We might not be able to do the really crazy things depending on our experience, but pretty much anybody can set that stuff up in Azure, right? If you're a programmer, you can set it up.
And I don't want to get crazy deep into the setups, like you're saying.
Yeah.
There's tons of ways that you can wire up and set up deployments but the staging environments that I get out of the box, the interactions that I get with my code, I can add unit testing in if I want. I'm cool with that. At some point, I want to run integration tests as part of like a nightly build, right?
Yeah.
Or right before that pull request is merged, I want to run an integration test. Well, how do I run an integration test? It's going to be something like Playwright. So where does that run? How do I deploy that? How do I get that all integrated and report back to the GitHub action that yes, this is ready to go? Those are DevOps things that I should be able to set up once and not have to care and feed for, right? There it
Right.
is. There's how it runs. I can add more tests to it and it does its thing, but I want to configure it once and forget about it. When you have to do that constant touching and massaging and feeding, then your process is like a puppy. I don't want a puppy in miniature. Set it. I want it to be a
Yeah.
rotisserie turkey. Set
Yeah.
it and forget it. Come back in a couple hours and my application is deployed. My application is tested, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
That's what I want as a developer.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, ops folks do amazing things
Oh, sure.
that improve how our applications feel and look and behave out there when you have a significant application out there. When it's just you and there's one little website, and ClipTalk literally is 5 pages that are all data driven. But I mean, when we start talking about getting into larger applications, more things to manage, now you want an ops person. Now you want somebody who's going to be able to coordinate those and take advantage of all the deployment strategies, sizing your hosting services properly, all that stuff. I'm not ready for it yet. I don't want to grow up. I'm a developer kid.
Me too.
So
how many microservices does ClipTalk use?
So I have two Azure. I have the Azure Functions app that comes with the Azure static website, and that's all HTTP endpoints. You can't set up queues and things in there. Let me pop open the source code over here and just take a quick peek and see what we got.
And welcome, John from New Jersey. I hope you didn't hit that big storm isn't coming your way that hit Kentucky last night. So
it's been kind of dreary here
in
the Delaware Valley. So Philadelphia, New Jersey region, just kind of bleh, you know?
Yeah.
I
was watching all that news this morning.
Awful to see. 4, 5,
it's just
6,
terrible.
7. Yes. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 5 different services with a bunch of different functions running underneath them. Things to manage clips, manage log in, log out, and your preferences. And I have a whole series of functions that are running that do transcriptions of those video clips. It's something that not a lot of folks thought about, and I dove into and really wanted to make sure I wanted to set the service apart, where when it's one thing to search for and say, oh gosh, I want to go find that clip where Dave was where he hosted Scott Hunter and go see what they were talking about. But it's another thing to say, you know what, Dave was talking to Scott Hunter about .NET 6. And they mentioned, I don't know, a Windows Forms thing. I didn't see the show. I want to search for that and find it. And if the clip isn't named exactly what you're looking for, you're not going to find it.
Right.
But on ClipTalk, you can search for the words that folks said and find that content. So I've got a whole series of microservices that build and do that interaction. Now,
Yeah, I think that's some of the, the news channels do that now too. Like they can quickly find videos that someone said some kind of word in the past, and they can, find the video pretty quickly, I think, these days.
yeah,
Because a lot of that, all that stuff is being, the words put to it afterwards, right?
sure.
Yeah,
Sure, right? Or they're already doing closed captioning
yeah,
as it's being
yeah,
delivered, so they'll index their own content for that, so they can go
yeah. That's
dig
the
it
only
up.
way you can find it. It's
Mhm,
so this
mhm.
senator said this words in 15 years ago. I mean, how are you supposed to find that if you don't
Oh my
remember
gosh.
they actually did it, right?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, right? So
Mm,
to have that search, index at your fingertips is really valuable, and
yeah,
it's that kind of thing is not something publicly available,
yeah.
but I do have that. So my back office processes that do the fetch of clips and syncing of the information there and handling the transcription chores and managing the search indexes. I've got 15 different uh,
Hmm,
microservices that do that, and each one has a bunch of different tasks, different Azure functions that are sitting out there. And I'm counting each of my classes. I break um, my Azure functions up into series of different classes
hmm,
that have related functions so that I can have, here's where all the clip management is. Here's where all of your follower information is. So we keep track of here's the folks that you follow on Twitch.
yeah,
So I can recommend to you on Clip Talk, well, here's some cool clips that came up on, one of your friends' channels that you want to go take a look at and catch up on. So
yeah. And
makes
those of you, I did want to bring up really quick just about microservices. If people haven't written microservices yet, that it's a way to dramatically improve performance of your backend, website and other services too. And let me just give you a quick example. I've talked about this, and I've written about this because I did this at one company a while ago. That this company, when I started there, this is the reason they hired me, was it was taking 70 seconds to ingest 600K of data, right? And that I know was really bad,
okay.
right? And because of that, they couldn't sell contracts to big sports teams. Like I think
Yeah.
one of the first sports teams they worked with was the Houston Astros, I think, because one of the players came to our company one day, and they were going, yeah, this doesn't work because it's just too long for us to do our batting practice and then go back and look at the results. It doesn't work, and so we're not going to do it.
Mhm.
And so just by setting some microservices in front of their still legacy code, I didn't change their legacy code. All I
Okay.
did was use queues and microservices in AWS to improve the performance. I got that down to 250 milliseconds or less. The
Nice.
same exact processing, 250 milliseconds as opposed to 70 seconds, right?
Okay.
And this is the power, if you do it right, of course, of microservices. You don't go way overboard on them either. I know I've been seeing tweets about that lately too, which I predicted years ago this was going to happen. But if you really architect it correctly, you can really, really improve the experience of your users.
And I go back to, gosh, Dave, when we were building monolithic web applications, right? You would set up anything that you were doing significant processing on. You would set up that thread pool, right,
Hmm.
where you would start
Threat pulling,
allocating threads and
right?
and right doing it old school way. Oh, create
Hmm.
create 5 threads and put them into a collection over here, and I'm going to start passing into them work to do, and or
Hmm.
they wake up and pull things out of an internal queue in memory to go and do that. And I think of exactly what you're describing of set up a microservice, set up some queues, and I can now scale that dynamically
Hmm.
by just adding more instances of those microservices so that I have more workers pulling content off the queue, processing and handing things off, right?
Hmm.
When we think Azure functions, you can specify how many a maximum number of
Right.
instances that get spun up. And I love that for my queue triggers that I know I can have up to, I think I set mine at like 20. So
Hmm.
if the queue gets backed up and it's taking a little bit of time, it starts spinning up more instances and it's going to pick up speed and empty that queue quickly.
Yeah, and if something, and the beauty of queues, which I love queues, is if something fails, it'll just come back around again, right? It doesn't like
It'll retry.
disappear, except if after it tries a few times, and it might go into the dead letter queue. But other than that, I mean, you're like what happened this week at AWS, right? But the AWS goes down, and if you're using queues, well, if the whole thing goes down, I guess you're kind of screwed anyway. But if you're using queues, that can just kind of stack up, and then as soon as the service comes back up, they can start sending all the data through. It alleviates a lot of work from us, I think.
I don't know about the AWS queues, but I know Azure queues are storage backed. So even if the data center goes down, whatever was in the queue is going to be there when it comes back.
Yeah.
So, but to another bit towards your point of, well, I can replicate that queue across multiple data centers. So, okay, if it's not here, then it's over there, and we can start processing from a different location.
So I have to ask a question from my boss, of course, Mahesh, because he's on the line today. And he says, Jeff, what's the cost look like for these searches, and which AI services are you using?
So I was using for the search, I was using MySQL as my primary relational database. So I was putting all of my data for the various clip records over into MySQL, and I was placing the content into the content that was going to be transcribed and well, the results of the transcription into Azure Table Storage, which was being loaded into Azure Search. Azure Search runs great if you're pointing to Microsoft SQL database, to Azure Table Storage, and it's just parsing that data and putting it into the index so you can query it quickly. The problem I ran into was the basic search service. You can allocate 2 gig of data, and it's a $70 cost. So here I was paying $70 for Azure Search. I was paying a couple $100 for the MySQL database, $200-300, and I was also paying another $100 for and growing for the Azure Table Storage that had all of the transcription data sitting in it. So all up, I was paying $500 for up to 2 gigabytes of storage. And I got into August and saw how quickly I was growing, and knew that I needed to move before October, or else I'd have to drag that capacity slider on Azure from 2 gig to the next one, which was 30 gig was the maximum size.
Wow.
Now, it doesn't matter how much data you're storing, you're charged the same amount per hour that it's used, and it's constantly re-indexing because I'm constantly generating new content. The cost change was going to be, it was going to quadruple my search cost. So I was still going to have the 300 some bucks for MySQL. I was going to have $150 for Azure Table Storage, and I was going to see $300 for Azure Search. So I was looking at that cost just to run that, running up to $700-800 just to be able to run the transcription search. And I was managing 3 databases. Dave, I don't know about you, but when I hear 3 databases to manage one data set, I want to cringe. I want to run the other way. I get scared. And this is why I went to Ravendb, because I could take all 3 of those things and put it into one service. Get that NoSQL data storage. Get the ability to search, because Raven's based on Lucene. And I would also be able to get replication where I need it. So I could take all 3 of those services that were going to be $800 and put it into 3 nodes that are replicated in a data center, collaborating together. So load balancing, all that stuff. And I see about $250 is my Raven costs right now. Fantastic. That as my data storage grows, that cost will go up, and that's fine. That's kind of to be expected. But I'm literally saving 60% of what my costs would have been if I had stuck with my completely Azure based solution and run with it. But I had the flexibility to be able to say, well, let's explore and try out these other solutions. And since Raven runs on Azure, it's sitting in the same data center as the rest of my application. Let's do it. That works great for me.
Yeah, is Ravendb outside of Azure? It is.
So Raven will run in their cloud instance. It's provisioned, it's charged outside of Azure. You can't exactly go into Azure and say, give me one of these, but they manage it on their own on the side. So, but you can get it to run on AWS, Google Cloud, and on Azure. And they are running it. It's not in the same resource group as the rest of my service, but it is in the same, in my case, East US 2 data center for Azure.
Well, great. And I have to wrap it up because Simon needs to go to bed. And so that's one thing about having a producer in India. So Ganesh, I'm sorry we're not going to get to your last question, but please feel free to reach out to Jeff, especially on his Twitch show, and ask him those things. There you go. And so I'm sorry I didn't get to it. We just kind of I lost track of time and we got to go. So Jeff, I really appreciate you coming back on the show. It's great to chat with you again. And because I don't get to see you in person for a number of years now. And so it's really great to see you again. And I hope you and your family have a wonderful Christmas.
Oh, thank you.
And I really would like you to come back on the show maybe next year and talk about just the architecture itself that you did and how you came up with those decisions and things like that. You talked a little bit about it today, but I'd like to hear like the whole thing maybe next year.
Absolutely, be happy to.
Okay. Oh, that's great. I got you on video that he's coming back, everybody.
Sure.
All right. Well, thanks very much and have a great weekend. And if you want to, Simon's got to go, so we can't really hang out after the show. But have fun opening your mysterious package on your show, and we'll see what that is next week, hopefully. So,
alrighty.
Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Yep, we'll see you.
See ya. Well, that was a great session with Jeff again. Jeff is a great guy and really knowledgeable, and I know he's heard me say this again. I wish I had his job. You listening, Microsoft? So anyway. I want to get moving because we only have a couple minutes left because I want to let Simon close up and do all that stuff. So I've mentioned this before. I have a brand new performance section on my website that I'm posting a lot of new articles about performance, and I'm constantly working on them. So I hope you go to that URL there and check them out. All the benchmark performance data is from .NET 5 and .NET 6. And I guarantee you, some of the things you thought was the right way to do things in .NET is not. And so make sure you check out that. As every week, everybody wins a copy of CodeRush from DevExpress. CodeRush is the only refactoring tool I've used since Visual Studio has been out. I use it every day. And let me tell you, I've been doing a lot of coding lately, not a lot of architecting. And I could just tell you that CodeRush just saves me so much time. So if you don't have a refactoring tool, and I'm not talking about the one in Visual Studio because that's very minimal, you need to get one. And so here's how you can get a real copy, not stripped down, for free by just going to devexpress.com/dotNetDave. Okay. And if you download it, like it, let me know. And I'd love to hear about it. Also, my latest Coding Standards book is out there, Coding Standards for Microsoft.NET. I hope you go pick it up. My book sales have been down the last couple months, and so there's my plug to go buy my book. Also, I'm doing something for the next couple of weeks. It's been going on for over a month, I think. I have a new campaign going on right now to help the kids from Voice of Slum, who I visited a couple of years ago. The last time I was in India. I'm really bummed I haven't been able to go because I want to see how the money I've been sending to them has been helping them. But I have a new thing now because my friends, all of them you saw on the Agile panel show, who are getting after me about my long hair. So I said, okay, I'll do a fund me site. If I reach my goal by the end of this year, I will cut on air, all my hair off. And I mean all of it, bald, everything. So if you want me to cut off my hair, please donate. And if you don't want me to cut off my hair, donate anyway. Because it will be fun if it actually happens. So please go there and help the kids from India, especially during the holiday times. Thanks for watching. I mentioned at the beginning of the show, by next week, the last show of the year, will be Mark Brown, Principal Program Manager at Microsoft, and he's the lead program manager for Cosmos DB. So he's going to be sharing all the new, latest, greatest stuff that's been announced from Cosmos DB next month. So I hope you come back for that, because those kind of databases are the future of our world. And so it's good to get on the bandwagon now. At least that's what I think of the future is. We'll see in 10 years if it really is. Please go listen to your medical professionals about COVID. You know, we're not over this. You know, we got a new variant now, and things are really ticking up here in America. I don't know how it's going on for where you live, but they're ticking up here. And it's going to be another tough holiday season if you want to spend it with people you don't hang around with a lot. So, and on that note, I'd like to give a shout out to, sorry, I can't read his name on the little graphic there. So somebody from India actually went and did the same type of blood donation that I did in India and tweeted this to me. And so I'm so grateful you did that. If you did it because of listening to me, I'm even more grateful. But get more people donating blood like you did. And what he's doing is what I do, and that's being hooked up to a machine for 2 hours. You don't have to do that to donate blood. This is special super donation stuff. You just need like 30 minutes if you just want to donate blood. So please donate blood. It'll help your fellow humans. And all the blood banks in the world are in shortage right now. And so I think it's everybody's responsibility to go donate blood, because someday, if a tornado hits in your state, you might need some blood. So please go donate. I can't stress this enough. And it doesn't cost you a dime. Maybe some fuel to drive there, but that's it. Okay. So thanks very much for watching the show. We've been off for a number of weeks, and we're back at least for one more show after this. Please email me your suggestions and requests and guests. I'm trying to come up with guests for next year. So if you want me to invite somebody, please email me and let me know, or tweet at me. And there's my email address. And with that, I'll see you next week. Thanks a lot.